Well, coming up on today's show, it was T-Day in Europe, or should that be E-Day? Either way, very exciting times. The sales figures are in for January around the world. We'll take a look at those. Plus, looking back at 2018 as well, who were the winners and losers? Polestar 2 is due to be unveiled, and motorsport.com reports on the electrification of the World Rally Championship. Well, good morning, good afternoon and good evening, in fact, wherever you're listening around the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. It's Wednesday the 6th of February. My name is Martyn Lee, and I've been through every EV story I can find online today, and I've picked out just the stuff I think you need to know about to save you time, to make sure that when you're talking about these things, next time that you are online or something, you are fully up to speed, fully knowledgeable, and you're not being left behind by what's going on. Thank you as always to my friends at myev.com for helping me make this show. They are hard at work building the world's first marketplace about buying and selling EVs. They're doing something very useful with their time rather than just sitting and making podcasts about EVs. They're helping you buy and sell and learn about them along the way as well. It's totally free, and you can check out myev.com. Welcome to the newest member of the Patreon gang, signing up today as a new producer. That is Nippon Chopra. Thank you so much for supporting my hard work. And I know what you're thinking. Reading out loud isn't that hard, and it's really not work. I think I agree with you. Hey, today was T-Day, or should that be E-Day? Tesla Day or Electric Day? Either way, I can't get over the excitement here in Europe at the very first ship arriving at the port to bring the first shipment of Tesla Model 3s for sale. Now, there's a few in Europe. There's some demonstrator cars flying around. There's some test drive cars. If you were desperate to get inside a Model 3, you could have flown to the US. You could have hired one from places like my friend Paul at electricmotoring.net. If you're in and around Chicago, he has his vehicles on Turo, and you can check out his website, electricmotoring.net. He's a supporter of this podcast. So if you're desperate to drive a Model 3, there's ways and means. Even dealers, well, they're not dealerships, are they? But the service centres in Europe have some for Tesla now. But really, these are about customer cars arriving, and they arrived in the early hours of the morning under cover of darkness in the port of Zeebrugge, which is in Belgium here in Europe. The Twitter account at Mr. Green EV, M-I-S-T-E-R, Mr. Green EV. They even had their drone out to film the very slow arrival of a massive car carrier pulling up. The consensus seems to be between 2,800 and 3,000 Model 3s arriving today, still on board as far as I can tell. But look, when was the last time anyone anywhere got excited about a car carrier pulling into a port ready to unload its cargo? About 6,000 cars on board, they say, half of them Teslas. And you know, I was following it online today. Lots of people were casually following it online, commenting on blogs and comment sections of InsideEVs.com. Just really kind of interesting that there is this, in Europe, this excitement that probably seems strange because the cars have been out for a year and a half in California and you see them every day. But bear with us. We're excited. Moving on, and InsideEVs have been checking out the US plug-in sales numbers for January. It's, well, we're on 6 days into the new month, so last month in full is now filtering through. Great start to the year for EVs, by the way. US car sales last month over 1.14 million, which means it's decreased by about 1%. I mean, overall car sales down by about 1%. In those circumstances, you would not be surprised to hear that maybe EVs were in line with the market, maybe stagnant. If you thought that, you'd be wrong. They improved by 43%. The plug-in electric car segment up by 43%, 17,000 vehicles sold. It's growing super fast, says Mark Kane at InsideEVs. The Tesla Model 3 was the top choice for those who decided a plug-in car was the one for them. InsideEVs estimating 6,500 delivered. Yes, that is a quarter of what you were expecting to hear. However, as Elon Musk confirmed on the earnings call recently, the entire production lines of Model 3 at Fremont are all going into making cars for China and Europe. And we talk a lot about Europe, obviously. It's, you know, the ship, sailed past within a few miles where I'm sitting right now. I live on the south coast of not quite the Channel, because the Channel's the bit between here and France, but I'm on the south coast, a bit sunnier, a bit warmer, and you know, the Glovis Captain, which was the ship carrying those 3,000 Tesla Model 3s, sailed past yesterday around lunchtime. So we're kind of excited about that, but actually the China story is a really interesting one as well. I don't fully understand all of the trade deals going on and the tariffs that are in place, but when you listen to Elon on the earnings call, there's perhaps more than Europe a big incentive to get as many Model 3s into China as quick as possible, hence domestic sales down slightly. As for the electric car sales here in the UK, well, they doubled in January. The plug-in market increased by 8.5% to 3,600 new registrations. Total registrations were down 1.6%, a bit like the US, actually. Single-digit growth was basically the result of a superb increase in the electric car segment. 110% increase, the highest growth rate for several years. Plug-in hybrids dragged the segment down a little bit. It was pure electrics that really drove the increase. Look, the raw numbers on these, 1,334 pure electric cars. That's not setting the world alight. I'm not pretending it's in the tens of thousands, but still a big increase. Meanwhile, This Is Money said that the UK diesel registrations are still in freefall, down 20% year on year, 40% down over 24 months. It was the electrified models now accounting for almost 7% of the entire market last month. Just awesome news. I'll put links to those articles in the show notes. Oh, by the way, the number that's interesting, the total plug-in market share in the UK. We like to look at the total share around the world, 3.7. So above average, 3.7. That's an increase. We're used to seeing it in the twos. Wonderful. And what about the rest of Europe? Well, InsideEVs has been looking at Europe. Alternatively powered vehicles. Hybrids were up 24%. Electrics up 47%, and plug-ins up 22%. All electric cars were up by, like I say, 47%. It's the quickest growth in the industry. You know, the SUV segment is growing pretty quickly, and it dwarfs that, with many new models coming on the market in the ramp-up phase. You wait till next year and the year after, when there's going to be so many more models on sale. Well, JATO Dynamics said that most of the fuel types growth was driven by pure electric vehicles, outselling plug-in hybrids, as their volume increased by 47% for pure electric vehicles. Norway was the biggest market for electric vehicles. They had a 31% market share. Wow. 31% market share in Norway. The Netherlands outsold the UK to become the fourth largest EV market behind Germany and France. Let's talk about Polestar. Polestar 2, the EV, the pure EV that we are waiting for it to be unveiled, will indeed be unveiled at the end of the month that we are in, February. Their all-electric spin-off hasn't even put its first car into production yet, but it's already getting ready to unveil its second car, and it's happening soon, says Roadshow by CNET. Well, Polestar will unveil the Polestar 2 in front of a global audience on February 27th. About a week before Geneva. Man, I'd love to be at the Geneva Motor Show. That's not going to happen this year. Got some big plans for March, which involves me not being in Geneva. But anyway, I can't talk about those at the moment. To keep things green, a fitting theme, given Polestar's powertrains, the debut is going to be an online launch. Why fly journalists around the world and then inevitably have to deal with the carbon emissions from those flights? They're doing it in a single location, and they're doing it online. A copy of the live stream will be available on Polestar's site. The Polestar 2 will have a range of around 300 miles. So Model 3, 310 miles. The Hyundai and Kia, so the Kona and e-Niro, knocking around 260 miles. So this is a good mileage car, Polestar 2, but it won't be cheap. 400 horsepower puts it in the premium segment. Definitely Model 3 territory. This could be a car as well that you can subscribe to. Care by Volvo. That's the new way that they think they'll be getting cars in your driveway. Not selling them, not leasing them, but subscribing to a car A monthly payment with everything included, insurance and service and all those kind of things. That's if Volvo get their way. If some of the car dealers in the US get their way, well, these subscription-based ways of you getting behind the wheel of an EV will be dead before they even begin, because the dealers in the US are crying foul. They say that it's against the rules, which, again, we don't really understand. We look at across the water, at the home of capitalism, and yet you have these immensely powerful car dealers that when a new business model comes along, like Volvo saying, oh, we'll let people subscribe to the cars, a single monthly payment like your mobile phone, and then it's you get insurance, you get servicing, you get the car, you can change it in and out. If you get bored after a month, you get a new one. And the US car dealers are like, no, we don't like it because it's not fair, so give us some protection, would you please? And they're all crying about it like babies, and we don't understand that. So if you're in the US, let me know. Maybe email me if you got some insight into why that protectionism needs to be there. Why, again, we don't understand why Tesla can't sell its cars direct in some states. Hey, have you ever heard a Joe Rogan podcast? Have you ever watched a Joe Rogan YouTube video? Maybe seen some stand-up from his Instagram account that has 5.7 million followers. He says, driving a Tesla Motors Model S is truly one of the strangest experiences I've ever had behind the wheel of a car. It legitimately feels like something wrong is happening. Without a doubt, the most preposterously quick vehicle I've ever driven. It feels like something Bob Lazar snuck out of Area 51. Elon, you knocked it out of the park with this crazy thing. So far, that post has had 232,000 likes. If you haven't seen the Elon Musk interview with Joe Rogan, the YouTube video, and you've got a couple of hours to spare, I highly recommend it. Yes, there is a 10-second clip where Elon takes a drag on whatever funky cigarette he had lit up, which got all the press and publicity, which I largely ignored at the time, and it took me about 48 hours to have the time to sit and watch it. That one small piece of the interview of Elon saying, oh, what's that cigarette? Let me take a drag on that. Tried it, put it down, wasn't bothered. Drank some whiskey. It is a fascinating 2 hours insight into Elon's brain. Or rather, I think he has like 5 brains all going at once. Anyway, what was really nice about that interview is Joe Rogan isn't a Tesla owner. He wasn't a Tesla owner. He wasn't even a Tesla expert. So, yeah, it was a little frustrating at times where he was asking some kind of beginner questions, but I guess he knows how to take his audience along that journey, right? He knows plenty of his listeners aren't Tesla fanboys. So there's a few things that I would like to him have had a basic level of, and he could have probed Elon a bit deeper on the cars. They spent a lot of time on neural networks and AI and Elon's ambition to go to Mars, all those kind of things. It wasn't really a lot about the cars. However, after that, Joe Rogan decided, I better buy one of these cars that this guy makes. And so it was after the interview that he bought his Model S. And by the look of his Instagram post, he is blown away by driving it. All good publicity for EVs. But what about when you come to charge them? Do you use ChargePoint if you are in the USA? Well, they've got a brand new service called CPAS, C-P-A-A-S. I think it's CPAS rather than CPAS. From a blog by Michael Hughes, the Chief Commercial and Revenue Officer, ChargePoint as a service, so CPAAS, ChargePoint as a service, is a new subscription model that empowers organizations to be part of the new network of the future. CPAS democratizes EV charging. It brings all of the benefits of the as-a-service pricing model to businesses interested in providing comprehensive EV charging solutions, but without purchasing them. Let me explain. Have you ever seen the phrase SaaS? SaaS. Have you heard of software as a service? SaaS, software as a service. You know, when you used to go down the computer store in 1998 and buy the latest version of Windows, and you get it on DVD and you take it home, and then you owned the software, and that's all gone now. So everything lives in the cloud and everything is a subscription service, and so you subscribe. So I subscribe to the Adobe series of products for making videos and editing these podcasts, and I subscribe to Microsoft, for instance, Microsoft Family. I mean, you subscribe to Spotify in a way. That's not quite software as a service, but you get my drift. So you don't buy a CD anymore, you don't go down the record store and buy vinyl, you subscribe to things. That's SaaS, software as a service. And now, what this big charging company in the US want to do is take that model and put it into EV charging. So ChargePoint as a service. They will provide, with a new subscription model, the hardware to the organizations, and that means that you only have to pay the ongoing subscription fee. So, how does this work? Well, it's a subscription model. Organizations have the very latest chargers at their workplaces, on the side of their organizations, and then ChargePoint provide that, but for a yearly fee, helps you manage your fees as a business, rather than having to buy these incredibly expensive bits of hardware and taking the risk and the hit on your capital expenditure. Businesses can sign up to CPaaS and get the latest gear, but pay a small monthly fee. I love this. The more places that you get EV chargers, not just in the US, but around the world, the more that fossil drivers will see them and hopefully see them being used. Nothing worse than seeing a charge point without a car plugged into it. It's my bugbear. I mean, not quite as bad as turning up desperate for a charge and everything being in use, but you know what I mean. I love to see chargers being used, and this seems a great way of getting chargers hardware into places that when they look at the initial cost of 20, 30, 40, whatever it is, $1,000 to put hardware in, they go, oh, it looks too expensive, can't do it, and I'm not doing it. This solves that. Wonderful. Right, three more stories if I get time. What are we up to at the moment? 17 minutes, I'll be quick. The company entity known as Porsche Se. Now, Porsche Se isn't a car maker. Bear with me, because I know you're thinking, well, I'm pretty sure Porsche do make cars. Have you been on the whiskey again this evening? Bear with me. Porsche Se is a financial holding company. They own Volkswagen Group. So although you might think that Volkswagen is at the top of the tree, there is a company above Volkswagen Group who own all the different brands, and they're called Porsche. It goes that way round. And of course, under VW, you've got Audi, Porsche, and all those kind of brands. It matters a lot what Porsche SE says, and Bradley at InsideEVs.com notes that Philip von Hagen, the executive board member of Porsche SE, was on hand at today's Bloomberg San Francisco summit to hear all about his take on EVs. Von Hagen was asked if Porsche SE, in other words, the VW group, is all in. That was the phrase. Are you all in on electrification? He replied, not really. Those are the two words he replied with. Not really. Yes, Volkswagen has committed $50 billion in electric cars, in autonomous driving, in mobility services. They'll be spending that by 2024. But what von Hagen revealed, which I've never seen before, and I've never heard this before, is what the $50 billion represents. It's a third of their current investment in powertrains, and over the next 5 years as well. So that is an insanely large number that you can't even begin to comprehend. $50 billion. But when you're a company the size of VW Group, it's only a third of what you are investing in powertrain technologies in the next 5 years. He said this, and I quote, "The investment is big and consequential, but we are still making 2/3 of our investment into the existing drivetrain technologies." End quote. So it's good they're spending the money, but don't be under any illusion that they're not pivoting to be an all-EV company like a Tesla or a Rivian or something. An insight, if you like, into the group finances. Moving on, and actually back to charging. Today, the UK government awarded another £6 million to support the ultra-low emission taxis. You know, we have these electric black cabs made here in the UK. Very distinctive black cabs, famous in London, a bit like our red buses and our telephone boxes. The black cabs are iconic and have been in the city for so many years, like New York's yellow cabs, right? They are now all electric, not all of them, but you can buy electric ones, and there's going to be more investment into charging them at the Smart Transport Conference by the Future of Mobility Minister. That's Jesse Norman. Who knew? We have a Future of Mobility Minister in the government. I should have known that. The funding will see 300 rapid chargers and 46 fast chargers installed for taxis in 17 areas like Manchester, Brighton and Hove and Leicester and the North East. And finally, a story that I picked up on motorsport.com. The World Rally Championship is going to move forward with an electric or hybrid solution from the 2022 season. According to motorsport.com, the M Sport team principal Rich Milliner said this, and I quote, "There will be a form of hybrid. That's a must. It's the only way the current manufacturers will stay in the sport, and it's the only way for us to attract new manufacturers. The main argument is between low voltage and high voltage hybrid systems. But how do we integrate those systems, and what do we use as a base?" End quote. So another racing series talking about electrification, partly for green reasons, but let's face it, mostly for performance, because you put some batteries inside a car, and holy moly, you don't see many of those losing on the drag strip. So yes, it'll be for, and the governing body, the FIA as well, I'm sure they'll have some input on the green credentials of this, but it's the performance, it just takes it to another level with that instantness of the power and the torque as well, and how you can control that instant power of motors on the front and rear axle. Oh man, don't get me started. I get excited about stuff like this. Hey, let's end the news there. I could carry on, but let's end it there for today. Thank you as always to myev.com for setting our question of the week. Keep your comments coming in on email, YouTube, Facebook. The question this week, get your answer in by Sunday, is this: which incentives, besides those already available where you live in the world, do you want to see implemented by automakers or dealers to help promote EVs? I've had some really, really good ones so far. Send me your thoughts. What's on your mind? hello@evnewsdaily.com is my email. That's hello@evnewsdaily.com. Thank you to 178 patrons of the podcast for helping fund this show. You are very kind, you're very generous, and you're helping make a huge difference as we spread the word about EVs. There are 379 shows online for free. If you want to get them, you can subscribe to new ones, so you haven't got to think about downloading it each day and finding the podcast. Just hit subscribe in your podcast app of choice, or even on YouTube. And if in return you can leave a little review on your favourite platform, that would be splendid. Come and say hi on the socials by searching EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you tomorrow.